Hi guys and welcome back to a new video. My name is Martina and this is a secret craft room. In today's video I'm going to show you how to make your very own Christmas countdown, or should I say Grinchmas countdown. Please don't forget to subscribe and give my video a thumbs up if you like it. And without further ado, let's get into the video. The very first thing I did was to make the Grinch, or at least half of him. I got the idea from this Department 56 piece of the Grinch stuck in a chimney and thought that this would be a really fun countdown decor piece. I started by using aluminum wire and shaped a base for the wall. I should have made his feet here too. Next I added this Grinch green wool and used my felting needle to shape it. Needle felting is pretty much a matter of adding wool, then shaping it, then adding more wool and then shaping it until you're happy with how it looks. I like to start out pretty loose and then continue until the piece is pretty dense and holds its shape. Once I was happy with his body, I made his Santa coat. I used a red velvet fabric for this. This is really simple since you don't need to make sleeves or anything like that. I just used my hot glue gun to create sort of a tube. Next I cut a strip of this white Sherpa fabric. I folded down and glued one side of it and then I glued it to the bottom edge of the coat. I cut off a little bit of the fluff to make the glue get a better hold. Then I turned the piece inside out and folded down and glued the Sherpa fabric to the velvet fabric. Then I cut off any excess fabric. Then I added the coat to the Grinch and glued it in place. Next I made his boots. I made it from the same velvet and Sherpa fabric as the coat. This is where I realized that I should have added the feet to the wire base, so I'm adding it here. Then I continued with the boots. I didn't use hot glue for this, instead I sew them by hand. This way they're more flexible. Then I build up the volume of the feet with a little bit of hot glue. Not too much, just enough to fill out the boots a little bit. Then I added his boots and used needle and thread to attach them in place. Then I cut off any excess fabric. I used needle and thread for the Sherpa fabric as well because it's too thin to use hot glue without burning your fingers off. I did however use hot glue to attach it to the boots. Next it was time to build the house and the chimney. I started with figuring out how big the chimney should be by measuring the Grinch piece. This was my first attempt at making the chimney, but since I wanted it to be sort of crooked, I didn't use all these pieces. I did however use one of these pieces later on. Then I made a template for the house. There will be a link to all the templates I made for this piece in the description box. This is where I used one of the original chimney pieces to figure out how big the chimney should be. Then I measured my template and figured out how big all the other pieces should be, like the side of the chimney, the sides of the house and the roof. Then I cut out all the pieces from thin cardboard. In hindsight, I think it would have been better to use thick cardboard, at least for the house pieces, to make it sturdier. But it worked out fine in the end anyways. I used masking tape to hold the pieces together and then I used hot glue to glue them. The chimney is supposed to be a little bit too wide for the Grinch at this point. We will make it more snug when we add the snow. Then I added paper strips and white glue to the whole piece, except for where the number cubes will go. You could also use Mod Podge instead of glue. Once everything had dried completely, I added strips of thin cardboard to the house as wooden planks. I also used strips of thin cardboard to create the bricks for the chimney. Next I mixed black acrylic paint with Mod Podge to use as a primer. I painted the whole house with this. The reason why I am using black for this is because it covers and cancels out all the ink markings and color differences. I added some extra layers of this to the chimney to sort of blend in the brick pieces. Then I painted the whole house with 2 coats of white acrylic paint. Then I painted the house light turquoise and red. Then I dry brushed the turquoise part with a lighter shade to make it look just a little bit worn. Next I painted the chimney with light orangey brown, and then I painted the grout with a darker brown shade. Next I made the cubes. I made mine 3.5 by 3.5 centimeters big. Once glued together, I added spackling to all sides, then I let them dry completely. I used a pretty long fairy light string for the lights. I measured out how much I needed all the way around the house and then I folded it several times. I tried to fold it so that the lights were spread as even as possible. Then I twisted it together. Next I used acrylic paint to paint the lights red, blue, yellow and green. To make the garland I used these big fluffy pipe cleaners. I painted them with dark green acrylic paint. The paint will make them a bit spiky and that will make them look like garlands. Once completely dry, I wrapped the pipe cleaners around the fairy lights. I also twisted the light strings so that the little colored light bulbs were facing forward. Then I shaped the garland and glued it in place on the house using hot glue. I also cut off some of the bristles from the pipe cleaners where the glue would go to make it stick better. I placed the garland so that the battery pack will be at the back of the house. I glued the cord along the edges of the house and down to the bottom. Then I marked out where I wanted the battery pack to go. Next I cut a hole for the battery pack. This way it will be hidden but easy to access. To make the snow I used white foam clay. I added the snow around the edges first. Then I added white glue underneath the clay to make it stick to the roof. Then I added snow to the rest of the roof and also to the chimney. I blended the edges as well as possible. When adding the clay to the chimney, I made sure that the Grinch would fit properly. You want it to be a little snug, this way you don't need to glue him in place, so you can remove him when it's time to pack the piece up for storage. Next, I sanded down the cubes. Then I added a coat of Mod Podge mixed with white acrylic paint as a primer. And then I added a coat of white acrylic paint. Next, I traced the numbers onto the cubes. Both cubes will have the numbers 0, 1 and 2. Then one of the cubes will also get the numbers 3, 4 and 5 and the other one 6, 7 and 8. The 6 will work as both 6 and 9. Then I painted the numbers with black acrylic paint. Once completely dry, I added a coat of matte Mod Podge to the cubes. Once the foam clay had dried completely, I carefully sanded it down. Then I added a coat of the Mod Podge and white paint mixture to all of the snow. Next, I used dark green paint to paint the copper wire of the fairy lights. Then I mixed Mod Podge with iridescent glitter and added it to the snow in sections and sprinkled more glitter on top. Next I created the text that will be on the house. I traced it to a piece of thin cardboard in the same manner as I did with the numbers. Then I painted everything red. Next I painted the words Days Till with white paint. And then I added black as sort of a shadow outline. Then I added a coat of Mod Podge to everything. Once completely dry, I cut everything out. Then I painted the edges with red paint. Next I mixed glossy Mod Podge with red glitter and added it to the Christmas letters. I also sprinkled more red glitter on top of them. Once completely dry, I added a second coat of the Mod Podge and glitter mixture to seal in the glitter. Then I glued everything in place. To make it easier to get the cubes out, I added this red satin ribbon on the inside. Next it was time to make the Santa bag. You can glue this if you want, but I decided to use needle and thread. Then I added some polyfill to it. Then I added a piece of gold string to tie the bag together. I also used hot glue to hold it in place. The bag should not be completely closed though, because we're going to add some items inside of it. Since the Grinch is stealing everyone's Christmas decorations, I wanted it to look like the bag is overfilled, so I added a piece of this miniature light string to it. Then I created 2 candy canes from aluminum wire. I painted them with 2 coats of white paint, and once completely dry I added red stripes. Then I covered them with glossy Mod Podge. When dry, I glued them to the bag. You can glue the bag in place on the roof if you want to, but mine sort of stuck, so I didn't need any glue. The last thing I did was to add red felt fabric to the bottom of the house, and then it was all done. Please don't forget to subscribe and give my video a thumbs up if you liked it, and let me know in the comments if you love the Grinch as much as I do. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.